Gojo Satoru's Limitless technique. This technique is an inherited curse technique of the Gojo clan. We know Gojo Satoru as just Gojo, like that's how we know him as. But this Gojo name, this is his clan's name, and this limitless technique is being inherited. It's like a genetic trait, kind of, which is passed down through the Gojo clan. It sometimes does come in some people inherit this technique just like genetic traits. This technique is inherited, but it can only be perfectly used only when it's combined with another inherited trait, which is known as the six eyes. But right now, I'm just going to be talking about the limitless technique. We are going to assume that it is being used perfectly, which is only possible when it's done with six eyes. But this video is not about six eyes. So just assume this technique is being talked about using the six eyes. Okay. As for without the six eyes, let's just clarify that as well before beginning. This technique cannot be used. Its cursed energy requirement is so damn high that it just cannot be activated at all. People can inherit this. This trait can still be inherited, but it cannot be activated. That is all. Let's begin. At the base state of limitless technique, this technique just gives you a defensive barriers of sorts. What it does, it's not like an invisible, it does work like an invisible barrier, but it is not an invisible barrier. I'll explain it in like a perfect form. Let's assume there is like this much distance, right, between point A and point B. If you want to go from here to here, how will you go? You will just go here. You reach this point. This is how a punch connects with somebody as well, some kind of attack. Now, if the limitless technique is being used, point this to point this cannot be like traveled directly here. You can only travel by halving the distance. Okay, so what this does is like these are the 2 points. So if you want to travel from here to here, you will first travel here, half the distance. Then again you will have to travel here, half the distance. Half, 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 and half. But you can never reach this person because just by halving a distance, a number, it can never reach zero. And to reach a point, to be on that point, means you have to reach zero. Let's assume this distance is 1. Now, is there any number you can divide 1 by which will just give 0? There isn't. 1 by 4, 1 by 8, 1 by 100, it is never 0. So, this is how the barrier is created. Gojo Satoru uses this idea to create a barrier, like this thick barrier around his body. And this keeps everything harmful to him away. It can be poison, it can be some kind of damage, anything. Whatever he wants to keep away, it is being kept away. When he was young, he was not able to do these kinds of things. But right now, he is before death. Right now, let's assume right now, he is able to do these things. At the very peak of his life, this was just something which was instinctual to him. So, this is the base form of a limitless technique. This is what every six eyes user with limitless should be able to do without too much of a problem. Yeah, Gojo Satoru did make it even better by selectively ignoring what he wants to keep, what he wants to get in, what he wants to get out. Because let's say, if limitless is a barrier which just doesn't let anything in, how will Satoru Gojo breathe, right? He needs to let the air in, but he also needs to make sure that some poison particles with the air doesn't come in. So this is the kind of manipulation he did with his technique, and this is something we have only seen Satoru Gojo do, and this requires a better mastery of limitless. This doesn't come directly with the technique. It's just a barrier with the basic limitless technique. Okay. Now, there are other ways Satoru Gojo and Gojo clan in general, throughout many years of this inherited techniques, inheritance, have figured out how to use. The first one is blue. Blue, it's not a color, like it is a color, but in the case of limitless technique, it's an attack. What blue does is it increases the energy output. Like, let's assume limitless technique is like a circuitry, like it's like an inherited trait, so it has a genetic makeup and it's like a circuit, how it's supposed to work. Like every genetic data is there. This is how genetics work. There is like a map of how one thing is supposed to work. This is a limitless techniques map. We add more energy than which is normal in the neutral, the basic limitless, we add more energy to it. This will give us blue. What this does, it kind of, let's say, it gives the idea of a negative distance, a conceptual, this is a concept. Negative distance does not exist in real life. You cannot be at a negative distance from someone. That's not possible. So this gives the conceptual idea of negative distance life. But because I said this is not possible, so what this does is it makes the universe go like crazy. It wants to fill that negative space, that empty void, with something. So it just creates a pulling motion. It pulls everything towards it. It's like a mini black hole. It's not as powerful as a black hole, but it is like a mini black hole. It's like a really strong gravitational force kind of effect. It's blue. This is how the Gojo clan's technique of blue is called as just blue. It's a good name, it's a cool name, it's just a simple name, and it shows what it does, because negative is mostly associated with blue whenever we are seeing some scales and stuff, right? So yeah, now this Gojo can use it as an attack. Gojo can also use it to literally pull himself towards some place, right? Because let's say blue is, he just created a blue up above in the sky, he himself will be pulled towards that blue, because it's like a gravitational effect, it's being forced towards him. So he can also move short distances like that. Doesn't need to do it. Limitless has other ways to do it much easier, but this is something he can do. He did do this against his fight with Mahoraga. All right, so this is blue's work done. Now the second technique which Limitless can do is known as red. What red does is it uses the reversed cursed energy to power that limitless technique circuitry. Reversed cursed energy is just cursed energy multiplied by cursed energy. If we let's talk about reversed cursed energy for a second so that you understand how red actually functions. When reversed cursed energy, it what does the name suggest? It's reverse of cursed energy, right? So cursed energy is, if you are hearing something is cursed, you understand it is negative, it is associated with negative emotions, right? So what the author did is the guy said that the reverse cursed energy and cursed energy are the opposites. What it does is, cursed energy has a negative symbol before it. Let's say you have 2 units of cursed energy and 2 units of cursed energy in both hands. Both of these will be -2 and -2. But what if you just multiply these two -2? You will get +4, because minus multiplied by minus is plus. This is the idea, actual mathematics the author has included in the story to create this reverse curse technique. This +4 I just said, this will be the reverse curse technique. This will be the reverse cursed energy. So this +4. Now I just said that -2 and -2, right? So I was using -2 amounts of energy to first create blue, correct? But when using reversed cursed energy, I'm using +4 because I'm using again -2 and being multiplied by it. So the technique red, which is using reversed cursed energy, is twice as powerful as blue. It's very obvious. These two things are being multiplied. It's twice the amount of energy which is going in. It's twice as powerful. But what happens if we are using a positive number in, except a negative number? We were using a negative number before, but now we are using a positive number to power the limitless. This is giving red, which repels things. Blue was attracting things, it was negative. Red is repelling things, it is positive. Red is much more powerful than blue. It is twice as powerful. It uses more energy as well. All right. So this is red done. Red can also be obviously used to like annihilate anything you want, because it will repel, like it will repel anything with a lot of force. So it's equivalent to Pain's Shinra Tensei. Let's just say it might be weaker than that according to who you ask. But yeah, the technique is similar. So after that, there is another secret technique. But you would assume, right? Like, how can there be another secret technique? That numbers can only either be negative or positive. Of course, it can be zero, but that's just neutral. But what this secret technique does, it just takes the negative and positive and just smash them together. This is also just not okay. Like, you would not have, first of all, you would not have negative energy, negative distance in the universe. You can have positive, but if it's like equivalent to antimatter and matter clash. It makes the universe go haywire. All right, it just confuses the universe really badly. The reality does not allow such a thing to exist. You will search the entire universe, you will never find such a thing existing, unless it's like a really, like it's some anime like this. Only then you will find something like this existing. So what this does, it creates hollow technique purple. Gojo Satoru creates a red, he creates a blue, he smashes them together. This creates a hollow technique purple. It doesn't annihilate, it just completely just destroys everything. Like, it erases stuff, let's assume, right? It is a phenomena which should not exist. So whatever is in hollow technique purple's path is erased completely. Like the hollow technique purple itself, this thing should not exist. Erase it. This is Satoru Gojo's strongest attack. Hollow technique purple is like the most secret technique of the Gojo clan, and Satoru Gojo has indeed mastered it and has used it in his fight against Sukuna and Mahoraga. So these are the hollow techniques, purple, the red and blue. These are the colored techniques, let's say, of Gojo Satoru. There is one more technique which he does use. It is a kind of teleportation. It's a kind of movement, right? So what Satoru Gojo does is like, what is limitless? What did I say about limitless? Limitless is like a conceptual phenomenon of infinity, right? So what Satoru Gojo does is, he is on point A. He wants to go to point B. He converges these 2 points distances, like he makes it half and just converges. So what does happen is, he goes from point A to point B. He teleports from point A to point B. So he doesn't have to move, he can just teleport from this to this, because technically, according to his technique, there is no distance between them, right? There is like really small distance. So he has to just move a little bit from, to go from here to, like, I don't know, the moon, just because there is no distance. Technically, we do have a distance, but for Satoru Gojo, who has concept of infinity with his limitless, he has no distance. He can just go from here to the moon with just a little bit of step, because he has divided the distance between, the moon and the earth so many times that it simply does not exist for him. Yeah. So this is how he uses a teleportation technique using his infinity concept. Satoru Gojo is one of the best limitless technique users we have seen. In fact, we have only seen one Satoru Gojo, but we do have knowledge about them. So even amongst them, Satoru Gojo is be at least called as one of the best, at least in this current era. He was the best. So yeah, take that as you will. Now, there is one last thing which the limitless technique can do. It is not something which, is like a manipulation of this technique. It is something which, in fact, every curse technique user can do. It is known as domain amplification, domain expansion. Whatever the thing is domain, he can do a domain expansion. So a domain expansion is like creating a space. Like, let's say we assume a sphere is being created around me. There is a black sphere, but it has more space than what that black sphere around me should have. So if I go inside that black sphere, it will be like an infinite amount of space. Stuff like that. It's not exactly an infinite amount of space. I'm just giving an example. It's a large area. Let's assume with that. So every cursed technique user, whenever they create their domain expansion, they have their specific abilities amplified. All right. So what limitless technique has is known as unlimited void. Unlimited void. Whenever, let's say you are Gojo Satoru, you put somebody in your domain expansion, what they will experience is an unlimited amount of information constantly entering their brains. How this bird looks, how this bird's feathers look, how many feathers does this bird have, how many little bit of cells these feathers have, Why do these cells exist? What kind of data? All kinds of data, nonsensical amount of data is being just bombarded on your enemy. It's just being constantly given to them, and this thing drives them insane. Of course, you have so much data in your brain, of course you will go insane. Who can handle this amount of data? At least you are going to fall into a coma. This is going to happen unless Satoru Gojo touches you, and like you are in his domain and he is touching you, so you are, except like this technique does not harm you. This is the only way you can survive this unlimited void. So yeah, this is how the limitless technique functions. This will be all about, this is not but how much Satoru Gojo has power. Like Satoru Gojo is much more stronger, he has many more things. But this is about the limitless technique. I'll talk about the 6 eyes later, which is being paired with limitless technique. Without the 6 eyes, limitless technique can't be used. Alright, so this will be all for today. Thank you for watching. I hope you do subscribe and help me in my new channel's growth. Thank you.